The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the quiet neighborhood of Maplewood. Children played in front yards, their laughter mingling with the gentle rustling of leaves in the trees. Leah, a black woman in her late 20s, sat in her cozy living room, feeling the excitement of the day wash over her. She was pregnant with her first child, and every little kick in her belly filled her with joy. Today was a special day. She had a doctor's appointment to check on her baby's health, and she couldn't wait to hear the heartbeat. As she gathered her things, her phone buzzed with a message from her brother, Travis. "Hey sis, can't wait to see my little niece or nephew. Good luck at the appointment." His support always made her smile. "Thanks, Travis," Leah replied, feeling a warmth in her heart. She grabbed her bag, her favorite water bottle, and headed out the door, taking a deep breath of the fresh air. The sun felt good on her skin, and she loved the way the neighborhood looked in the golden light. Leah climbed into her car, adjusting the seat to make herself comfortable. She put on her favorite playlist, filled with soothing melodies, and began to drive toward the clinic. The streets were busy but familiar. She felt a sense of peace wash over her, excited about the little life growing inside her. But as Leah turned onto Main Street, everything changed. In her rearview mirror, she noticed flashing lights, blue and red, swirling like angry bees. Her heart dropped. "Oh no, not now," she muttered to herself, glancing at the speedometer. She hadn't been speeding, but she knew how unpredictable police officers could be. She pulled over to the side of the road, her palms sweating as she turned off the music. "Just stay calm," she told herself. "It's probably nothing." But her stomach twisted with nerves as she watched a white police officer approach her car. Officer Jude was a man in his 30s, with a stern face and an air of authority that made Leah uneasy. He walked with purpose, his eyes locked on her, and Leah felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. "License and registration," he barked before even greeting her. Leah swallowed hard, her throat dry. Yes, officer." "Just a moment." She fumbled through her bag, trying to find her documents. "I'm just heading to a doctor's appointment," she explained, hoping to ease the tension. Yeah, just hurry up," Jude snapped, his voice sharp and impatient. Leah's heart raced as she finally found her license and registration. She handed them over, her hands trembling slightly. "I'm sorry if I did something wrong," she said, trying to sound calm. Jude glanced at the documents, then back at her with a look of disdain. "You people always think you can do whatever you want," he sneered, his words cutting through the air like a knife. "What do you mean by you people?" Leah asked, her voice shaking with disbelief. "Just get out of the car," he ordered, ignoring her question. Leah felt a cold chill run down her spine. "Please, I'm pregnant. I haven't done anything wrong. I just want to get to my appointment," she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. "Out." "Now!" Jude shouted, his hand moving to his belt as if he was ready to escalate the situation. Leah's heart raced. She had seen stories of police brutality on the news and didn't want to be another victim. "Please, I can't." "Get out of the car," he screamed, his face twisting with anger. Leah opened the door slowly, trying to keep her composure. She stepped out, feeling exposed and vulnerable. "What's going on?" she asked, confusion mingling with fear. Officer Jude took a step closer, towering over her. "You think you can just ignore the law?" he spat, his voice dripping with contempt. "You think you're above everyone else?" "No. Leah started, but he cut her off with a shove, pushing her back against her car. She gasped, trying to catch her breath. "You're going to learn some respect today," he growled, his anger boiling over. "Please." "I'm pregnant," she cried, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "You can't do this." But Jude was relentless. "You think you can play the victim? You're just another troublemaker." He pushed her again, this time harder, and Leah stumbled, fear gripping her heart. The sound of her car door slamming echoed in the street, drawing the attention of onlookers. Some stopped to watch, their eyes wide with shock. "What's happening?" one woman whispered to her friend, both unsure of how to react. Leah's mind raced. She had done nothing wrong, yet here she was, facing the wrath of an angry officer. "Why are you treating me like this?" she shouted, her voice trembling but filled with determination. "I haven't done anything wrong." "Shut up," Jude snapped, shoving her again. This time Leah fell to the ground, pain shooting through her body. She felt the tears streaming down her face, fear and anger bubbling inside her. The crowd began to murmur a mix of disbelief and concern. "This isn't right," a man called out. "Someone should help her." But Jude turned to the crowd, waving his hand dismissively. "Back off. This is none of your business." His tone was harsh, but the tide was beginning to turn. People were stepping forward, their voices rising in protest. "Leave her alone." "She's pregnant," a woman shouted, anger boiling in her voice. Leah looked up at the crowd, feeling a flicker of hope amidst her despair. Maybe she wasn't alone after all. In that moment, everything felt surreal. The world around her faded as she focused on the officer looming over her, filled with a mix of fear and determination. "You can't treat me like this," she yelled, her voice strong despite her situation. Jude hesitated, surprised by her outburst. But instead of backing down, he moved in closer, his face twisted in anger. "You're just another black woman thinking she can get away with anything." Leah's heart sank. This was about more than just a traffic stop. It was about the discrimination she faced every day. She had hoped that being pregnant would soften his heart, but it seemed to have the opposite effect. The crowd grew bolder, their voices ringing out in solidarity. "Let her go," they shouted. "She hasn't done anything." But Jude stood firm, refusing to back down. "You're all just a bunch of troublemakers," he yelled, clearly feeling cornered. As the situation escalated, Leah realized that she needed to stand her ground. "You don't get to treat me like this because of my skin color," she shouted, her voice echoing through the air. The crowd erupted into cheers, emboldening Leah. "We're here for her. We will not be silenced." Officer Jude felt the pressure mounting around him. He had lost control of the situation, and for the first time, he sensed the consequences of his actions. Suddenly, a loud siren pierced the air. The sound of another police car approaching made Jude turn, his bravado faltering. Reinforcements were arriving, and he realized he might not be able to escape the backlash of his actions. As the second police car pulled up, Leah took a deep breath, feeling the strength of the crowd behind her. She knew she was fighting not just for herself, but for everyone who had faced discrimination and injustice. "Back off, Jude!" one of the new officers shouted as he stepped out of the car. "What the hell is going on here?" Jude's face fell as the reality of the situation crashed down around him. He had crossed the line, and now the weight of his actions was closing in. Leah looked at the new officer, her heart racing. "Please, I'm just trying to get to my doctor's appointment. I didn't do anything wrong." The new officer nodded, his expression serious. "Let her go, Jude. You're in the wrong here." The crowd erupted into cheers once again, the sound filling Leah with hope. She had stood up against injustice, and maybe, just maybe, she would be heard. As Jude stepped back, anger and frustration bubbling inside him, Leah took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had fought back, and she wouldn't let fear silence her anymore. But the road ahead was uncertain. The fight against discrimination was far from over, and Leah knew she had a long way to go. But in that moment, she felt empowered, ready to face whatever came next. The sun rose slowly over the town, bringing a new day filled with uncertainty. Leah was still unconscious in the hospital, and her family was anxiously waiting for news. They gathered in a small room, sitting quietly together, holding hands as if to share strength. The air was thick with tension, each tick of the clock echoing in their minds. Travis glanced at Hunter, worry etched on his face. "I can't believe this happened." "She was just driving to a doctor's appointment." "I know," Hunter replied, his voice shaky. "And that officer, he shouldn't have done that. We need to make sure everyone knows what he did." In the hallway, the atmosphere buzzed with energy as friends and community members arrived to support Leah's family. They whispered among themselves, their expressions a mix of concern and anger. News of the shooting had spread like wildfire, and people were coming together to fight for justice. A nurse stepped into the waiting room, her expression serious. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to speak with Leah's family." Everyone's head snapped in her direction. "Is she okay?" Travis asked, his heart racing. The nurse took a deep breath. "She's stable now, but it's too soon to know if she'll have any long-term effects. She's still unconscious, but her family can go in to see her for a few minutes." Relief washed over Travis, but it was quickly followed by dread. "Thank you," he said, and the nurse led them down the hallway. As they approached Leah's room, Travis felt his heart pounding in his chest. What if she doesn't wake up? What if she can't hear us? Hunter placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "She's strong. We'll be here for her. She has to know we're fighting for her." When they entered the room, Leah lay still on the hospital bed, surrounded by machines beeping softly. Her face was bruised and pale, and an oxygen mask covered her mouth. The sight broke Travis's heart. He moved closer, gently taking her hand. "Leah, it's me, Travis. We're here." Hunter stood at the foot of the bed, tears in his eyes. "Please wake up, Leah. We need you." Travis squeezed her hand tightly, willing her to feel his presence. "We love you. You're going to be okay. Just keep fighting." Suddenly, a reporter burst into the room, notebook in hand. "Excuse me, can I ask you a few questions about the incident?" "Not now," Hunter shouted, anger flaring. "My fiancée is in here fighting for her life, and you want to ask questions?" The reporter hesitated, then backed away. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude." As they settled into their vigil, Travis glanced at the door, worry creeping back in. What's going to happen next? "We need to do something about that officer." "I'll handle it," Hunter said firmly. "We need to make sure he's held accountable. He can't just get away with this." After a few long hours, a doctor entered the room, his expression serious. "I'm Dr. Reynolds. I wanted to give you an update on Leah's condition." Everyone turned their attention to him, hearts racing. "She's stable, but we're monitoring her closely. The next 48 hours will be crucial." "Will she wake up?" Travis asked, his voice trembling. "It's hard to say," Dr. Reynolds replied. "We'll keep you informed, and you can talk to her." Sometimes hearing a loved one's voice can help. After the doctor left, Travis and Hunter took turns talking to Leah, sharing stories and memories. They spoke about the baby, their plans for the future, and how much they loved her. Days passed slowly, and the community continued to rally around Leah's family. Protests erupted, demanding justice for her and others who had faced similar brutality. The news covered the story, showcasing the community's outrage over the shooting. In the town square, people held signs that read, "Justice for Leah," and "End police brutality." The anger was palpable, and the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Travis and Hunter decided they had to be part of it. "We need to go," Travis said one evening. "Leah would want us to be there." The next day, they joined the crowd, holding a sign that read, "Justice for Leah." Their voices joined the chorus of people demanding change. "We won't stand for this," one woman shouted, her voice ringing through the air. "No more violence against our community." As they marched through the streets, Travis felt a sense of empowerment. They were no longer just victims. They were fighting back against a system that had failed them. Later that evening, they returned to the hospital, tired but energized. As they entered Leah's room, Travis felt a spark of hope. "We did something today, Leah. The community is rallying for you." Hunter nodded, stepping closer to Leah's side. "You're not alone in this fight." Suddenly, Leah's fingers twitched. Travis's heart raced. "Leah, can you hear us?" Slowly, Leah opened her eyes, blinking in confusion. "Travis," she whispered, her voice weak. "Yes." "I'm here," he cried, overwhelmed with emotion. "You're going to be okay." What happened?" she mumbled, looking around the room, her eyes wide with fear. "You were shot, but you're safe now," Hunter said, tears of relief streaming down his face. "We're right here with you." Leah's brow furrowed, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. "The baby. Is the baby okay?" "Yes, the baby is fine," Travis reassured her. "You're both going to be okay. Just take it slow." Leah closed her eyes again, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'm scared." Travis squeezed her hand gently. "You're strong, Leah. We're all fighting for you." The days passed, and Leah slowly regained her strength. She listened as her family shared updates about the protests and the community's support. One morning, a nurse entered the room with a warm smile. "Good news. You're ready to start physical therapy soon." Leah felt a rush of determination. "I want to get better. I need to fight back." As she began her recovery, Leah became more aware of the community's response to her shooting. She saw news coverage of the protests, and her heart swelled with gratitude. In the hospital's common area, she watched her story unfold on television, tears of pride filling her eyes. The signs, the chants, and the voices demanding justice reminded her that she was not alone. "Leah, you are an inspiration," one nurse said, her voice filled with admiration. "You have so many people supporting you." "I didn't ask for this," Leah replied, her voice trembling, "but I won't let them forget what happened to me." As her strength returned, she began to formulate a plan. "I want to speak out," she told Travis and Hunter. "I want my voice to be heard." Travis smiled proudly. "We'll help you. Your story matters." Days turned into weeks, and Leah's recovery became a symbol of resilience. The community continued to rally, fighting not just for her, but for everyone affected by police brutality. With each passing day, Leah felt stronger and more determined. She would not let her story fade into the background. She was ready to stand up for herself and demand justice for all. As Leah prepared for her first public appearance, she took a deep breath, ready to share her truth. She was a warrior, and she would not back down. The day of the rally arrived, and Leah felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She was ready to face the world and demand change. As she approached the microphone, the crowd erupted in cheers. With her family by her side, Leah took a deep breath, feeling the love and support surrounding her. She was ready to fight for justice and make her voice heard. Together, they would change the world, one voice at a time. The news of Leah's shooting spread like wildfire throughout the community. People were shocked, angry, and confused. How could a police officer shoot a pregnant woman for simply driving? The images of Leah being taken away in an ambulance played over and over on the news. Friends and family gathered at the hospital, their faces filled with concern. At the hospital, Leah lay unconscious, fighting for her life. Her family crowded around her bed, holding her hand and praying for a miracle. Her brother Travis was a ball of nerves, pacing back and forth in the waiting room. "Why did this happen?" he muttered under his breath. "She was just driving to her appointment." Hunter, Leah's fiancé, sat next to him, his face pale with worry. "We need to stay strong for her," he said quietly. "She'll need us when she wakes up." Travis nodded, trying to keep it together. "I just can't believe this is happening. The officer should be arrested. He shot her for no reason." As they spoke, a doctor approached them, looking serious. "Can I have a word?" he asked, gesturing for them to step aside. Travis's heart raced as they followed the doctor into a small room. "Is she okay?" he asked, anxiety dripping from his voice. The doctor took a deep breath. "Leah is stable now, but she suffered severe injuries. We are doing everything we can, but the situation is serious." Hunter felt a lump in his throat. "What does that mean for the baby?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The baby is currently fine, but we need to monitor both of them closely," the doctor explained. "It's crucial that she remains calm and stress-free. I'm afraid we can't guarantee everything will be okay." Travis felt tears welling in his eyes. No. She has to be okay. She's strong. She has to pull through." The doctor nodded, but the look on his face told them it wasn't guaranteed. "You should be prepared for any outcome. It's a waiting game now." As they stepped back into the waiting area, Travis felt a wave of anger wash over him. He couldn't just sit back and let this happen. "We need to do something," he declared, his fists clenching in frustration. "What do you mean?" Hunter asked, his brows furrowing. "We have to let people know what happened." "We can't let Leah's shooting be forgotten," Travis insisted. Hunter agreed. "You're right. We need to make sure everyone knows that Officer Jude shot her for no reason. We can't let him get away with this." With a shared sense of purpose, they began to brainstorm ideas. They would organize a rally, a way for the community to come together and demand justice for Leah. They wanted to raise awareness about the systemic issues in law enforcement that had led to this tragedy. The next day, as news crews swarmed the hospital, Travis and Hunter went home to prepare. They printed flyers, set up social media pages, and reached out to their friends. "Join us for a rally to support Leah and demand justice," the flyers read. As the day of the rally approached, Travis felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He knew they were fighting against a powerful system, but they couldn't stay silent. Finally, the day of the rally arrived. The air was filled with tension and determination as people gathered in the town square. Banners were waved, and signs reading, "Justice for Leah" and "End Police Brutality" filled the streets. Travis and Hunter stood at the forefront, feeling the energy of the crowd surge around them. They had worked hard to organize this event, and now it was time to take a stand. "Thank you all for coming today," Travis shouted into the microphone. "We're here to honor Leah and demand justice for her. No one deserves to be shot for just driving." The crowd erupted in cheers, voices blending together in a powerful chorus of support. "Justice for Leah," they chanted, raising their signs high in the air. As the rally continued, speakers began to share their own experiences with discrimination and police brutality. Each story added fuel to the fire, igniting a sense of unity among those present. "I stand here today because I believe in change," one woman declared, her voice strong. "We need to hold those in power accountable." Travis and Hunter exchanged proud glances as they listened to the stories unfolding around them. They knew this was more than just a rally. It was a movement that would leave a mark on their community. As the sun began to set, the crowd lit candles in honor of Leah. The flickering flames illuminated their faces, united in their call for justice. "Together, we will make a difference," Hunter shouted, his voice filled with passion. "Leah's story matters, and we will make sure it's heard." The crowd erupted in applause, their voices a powerful affirmation of solidarity. Travis felt a rush of hope as they stood together, determined to fight for change. Later that evening, as Travis and Hunter drove back home, they reflected on the rally's impact. "We did it, man," Travis said, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We raised awareness. We made our voices heard." Hunter smiled, but a flicker of worry crossed his face. "But what happens next?" "We need to keep pushing for justice." Travis nodded. "Absolutely. This is just the beginning. We'll keep fighting for Leah and for everyone who has faced this kind of violence." Little did they know, their fight was far from over. As the sun set on the horizon, the community stood united, ready to take on the challenges ahead in their pursuit of justice for Leah. The days following the incident were filled with a mix of emotions. Leah lay in the hospital, her body healing slowly, but her spirit undeterred. Meanwhile, the community outside buzzed with activity, rallying for justice and demanding accountability for Officer Jude. They were furious about what had happened to her and were determined to make sure Leah's story was heard. As news of the shooting spread, Leah's brother Travis felt a burning desire to act. He knew that Leah would want them to fight for change, not just for her, but for everyone who had faced discrimination. With a heavy heart, he gathered his friends and family to brainstorm ways to raise awareness about police violence against Black people. "Guys, we need to organize a rally," Travis said one evening as he sat around the table with Hunter, Leah's fiancé, and a few other friends. "We can't just sit back and wait for justice to happen. We need to make our voices heard." Hunter nodded, his face a mix of anger and determination. "You're right. This isn't just about Leah. It's about everyone who has been treated unfairly. We have to show the police and the world that we won't stand for this." Everyone agreed, and they began to plan. They created flyers, posted on social media, and reached out to local organizations to gather support. They wanted to make this rally big, to show the city just how many people cared about justice for Leah and for others like her. As the day of the rally approached, the excitement in the community grew. Travis felt a surge of hope, knowing that they were uniting for a cause that mattered. But he also felt the weight of responsibility. Leah had always been the strong one, and now it was up to him to carry her fight forward. On the morning of the rally, the sun shone brightly, and the energy in the air was electric. People began to gather at the town square, holding signs that read, "Justice for Leah," and "Stop Police Brutality." Travis looked around, feeling a mix of pride and anxiety as he saw the faces of friends and strangers alike, all standing together for a common goal. As the crowd swelled, Travis took a deep breath. He climbed onto a makeshift stage, ready to speak. "Thank you all for being here today," he shouted, his voice booming across the square. "We're here to honor Leah and to demand justice for her and for all the victims of police violence." Cheers erupted from the crowd, their voices ringing with support. "Justice for Leah! Justice for Leah!" they chanted, the rhythm echoing in Travis's heart. He raised his hands, signaling for quiet. "Leah is in the hospital right now fighting for her life. She didn't deserve this. No one deserves to be treated like this because of the color of their skin." The crowd roared in agreement, their energy infectious. As the rally continued, various speakers took turns sharing their stories and experiences with police discrimination. A young woman named Tasha stepped up next. "I'm here because I'm tired of being afraid of the police," she said, her voice steady. "I've seen friends hurt just because they were black. We need to stand up and fight back." Travis felt a swell of emotion as he listened. Tasha's words resonated with everyone present, and the crowd erupted in cheers once again. This was a moment of unity, a chance to lift each other up and demand change. As the rally progressed, the crowd grew larger, filling the square with voices calling for justice. They chanted slogans, raised their fists in solidarity, and vowed to continue fighting until change was made. Travis felt empowered, knowing that they were all together in this fight. Just then, the atmosphere shifted as a familiar figure approached. It was Leah's mother, holding a bouquet of flowers. She walked through the crowd, her expression a mix of sadness and pride. Travis rushed over to her, his heart aching at the sight of her tear-streaked face. "Mom," he said softly, wrapping his arms around her. "I'm so glad you came." "I couldn't stay away," she whispered, holding the flowers tightly. "Leah needs to know how much we love her." Travis nodded, feeling the weight of their situation. "We're fighting for her. We won't let her down." Together they walked to the front of the rally where Leah's story would be honored. Travis took a moment to catch his breath before speaking again. "Everyone, this is Leah's mom. She's been the strongest person I know, and she's here to support us today." The crowd erupted into applause, acknowledging the strength of Leah's family. Travis felt a rush of gratitude for everyone's support. He turned back to his mom, who looked at him with pride. "Leah is going to be okay," she said, her voice steady. "She's a fighter." The rally continued, each speaker igniting a fire within the crowd. They all knew they were making a difference, that their voices were being heard. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the square, Travis felt a sense of hope blossoming in his heart. But as the rally came to an end, Travis also felt a flicker of fear. What would happen next? Would they see justice for Leah? Would Officer Jude face the consequences of his actions? Those questions hung heavy in the air, but Travis knew they couldn't give up. "Remember this day," Travis urged the crowd as he concluded the rally. "We're not just here for Leah. We're here for everyone who has been silenced and oppressed. We will keep fighting until justice is served." The crowd erupted into cheers once more, their voices a powerful reminder of their unity. Travis felt invigorated, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would make sure Leah's story was heard and that justice would prevail. As the crowd dispersed, Travis and Leah's mother stood together, their hearts filled with hope. They would continue to fight to ensure that Leah's voice, and the voices of countless others, would not be silenced. They were determined to create change, and together, they would stand strong. Days went by after Leah's shooting, and the atmosphere in the hospital was heavy with tension and worry. The news of her critical condition had spread like wildfire, igniting anger in the community. Travis and Hunter spent every waking hour at her bedside, praying for her recovery. They couldn't shake the feeling that they needed to do something more than just wait. One sunny afternoon, Travis sat in the waiting room, scrolling through his phone. He came across a video of a protest happening downtown, where people were demanding justice for Leah and accountability for Officer Jude. His heart raced as he watched the passion and anger in the voices of the people on screen. This is what we need to do, he thought. We can't just sit here. He turned to Hunter, who was watching Leah, still unconscious, with a worried expression. Hunter, we need to join the protests. We have to make our voices heard, Travis urged. Hunter looked up, his eyes filled with determination. You're right. Leah wouldn't want us to sit idly by while the community fights for her. Let's do this. With a renewed sense of purpose, Travis and Hunter jumped into action. They began reaching out to friends and family, spreading the word about joining the protest. They wanted to make sure Leah's story was at the forefront of everyone's minds. Meanwhile, the hospital staff buzzed around them, caring for Leah and updating her condition. Each time a nurse entered the room, Travis and Hunter leaned in, hoping for good news. One afternoon, a doctor approached with a serious expression. Leah is stable, but she's still in critical condition. We need to keep her under close observation, the doctor explained. I know this is a difficult time, but you need to prepare for the possibility of complications. Travis's heart sank. What do you mean, complications? Her injuries were severe, and while she's responding to treatment, there's no guarantee of a full recovery, the doctor said gently. Hunter clenched his fists, anger bubbling within him. She's going to fight through this. She's strong. The doctor nodded, appreciating their optimism. I hope you're right, but it's important to be realistic. Let's focus on supporting her and ensuring she has the best care possible. As the doctor left, Travis and Hunter exchanged glances. They felt a mix of determination and despair, knowing they had to be Leah's voice. They couldn't let her story be forgotten. That night, they sat in the waiting room, brainstorming how to raise awareness. What if we create a social media campaign? Travis suggested. We can share Leah's story and the injustices surrounding her shooting. I love that idea, Hunter replied, his eyes lighting up. We can use hashtags to get the word out. Let's make sure everyone knows what happened. They spent hours crafting posts, sharing photos of Leah, and detailing her story. They included information about the protest and encouraged people to join. They even reached out to local activists, asking for their support. As their campaign gained traction, the hospital room felt more hopeful. People began sharing Leah's story, and support poured in from friends, family, and even strangers. The hashtag, #OurJusticeForLeah, started trending in their community, uniting voices from all walks of life. As the day of the protest approached, excitement and nervousness filled the air. Travis and Hunter couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. They knew that this was more than just a protest. It was a chance to honor Leah and demand justice. On the morning of the protest, the sun shone brightly. Travis and Hunter arrived at the gathering point, their hearts racing. The square was packed with people holding signs, chanting for justice. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as they joined the crowd, ready to stand up for Leah. Justice for Leah, the crowd chanted, their voices echoing through the streets. Travis felt a surge of pride as he raised his sign high, feeling the solidarity around him. As they marched, they saw families, young people, and elders all coming together for the same cause. The diversity of the crowd was a testament to the community's strength. People shared stories of discrimination and injustice, highlighting the need for change. At the front of the march, a local activist spoke passionately about the need for accountability in the police force. We can't let this be another case that gets swept under the rug. Leah deserves justice, and we will fight until she gets it. Cheers erupted from the crowd, echoing the determination in their hearts. Travis felt tears welling in his eyes. This was more than just about Leah. It was about everyone who had faced similar injustices. As they marched through the streets, Travis's phone buzzed with notifications. Their social media campaign was reaching far beyond their expectations. People from different cities were joining in solidarity, sharing Leah's story, and encouraging their own communities to take action. The rally culminated in front of the local government building, where speakers shared their messages of hope and resilience. Travis tipped the microphone, his heart pounding. "Thank you all for being here today. We're here for Leah, but we're also here for everyone who has suffered from police brutality. We won't back down until justice is served." The crowd erupted in applause, their voices blending into a powerful chorus. "Justice for Leah!" they chanted again, the words resonating with a sense of purpose. As the protest continued, a sense of hope filled the air. People shared stories, connected with one another, and formed bonds that would carry their movement forward. They were no longer just individuals. They were a united front against injustice. In the days that followed, the protest gained national attention. News outlets reported on the rally, showcasing the voices of the community demanding change. The pressure mounted on local officials, and discussions began around police reform. Back at the hospital, Leah's condition began to stabilize. Travis and Hunter continued to visit her, sharing stories from the protest and showing her the support they had garnered. They wanted her to know she was not alone in this fight. One afternoon, as they sat by her bedside, Leah opened her eyes. "What happened?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're in the hospital, Leah." "You were shot, but the community is fighting for you," Travis said, his heart racing with excitement. Leah looked confused. "Fighting for me?" "Yes. We held a protest, and people are rallying for justice," Hunter explained, tears of joy in his eyes. "You have so much support, Leah." As Leah processed the news, a flicker of determination shone in her eyes. "We need to make sure he pays for what he did," she said, her voice growing stronger. Travis nodded vigorously. "We will, Leah. We promise to keep fighting until you get the justice you deserve." With that promise, they knew the battle was far from over, but together they had ignited a movement that would carry on, ensuring that Leah's story would never be forgotten. The road ahead would be challenging, but with the community behind them, they felt ready to take on anything. The sun rose on a new day, shining brightly over the city. Outside the hospital, a crowd had gathered, their faces a mix of determination and hope. Signs filled the air, reading, "Justice for Leah," and "Stop Police Violence." It was a gathering of family, friends, and strangers, united for one purpose: to stand up for Leah and demand accountability. Inside the hospital, Leah lay in her bed, surrounded by the soft beeping of machines. She had finally awakened, but the pain in her chest reminded her of the terrifying events that had led her there. As she looked around the room, she spotted her brother, Travis, sitting by her side, holding her hand tightly. "Leah! You're awake!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with relief. "I was so worried about you." Leah smiled weakly, grateful for her brother's presence. "What happened?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were shot by a police officer, but you're safe now. You're going to recover," Travis explained, his eyes shining with tears. "The community is rallying behind you. Everyone is fighting for justice." Leah's heart swelled with gratitude. "I need to fight back. I can't let him get away with this," she said, determination flooding her voice. "You will," Travis promised. "We're going to make sure your story is heard." Meanwhile, outside the hospital, the crowd continued to grow. Activists, friends, and family held a press conference to demand justice for Leah. The energy in the air was electric, and people were eager to speak out. As the speakers took the podium, they shared their personal experiences with police violence and discrimination. "This isn't just about Leah," one speaker said passionately. "This is about every Black person who has faced injustice at the hands of those who are supposed to protect us." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices blending into a powerful chorus. In the hospital room, Leah listened to the rallying cries of her supporters through the window. "They're fighting for me," she thought, feeling a surge of empowerment. "I can't let them down." As the days passed, the community organized protests and vigils in Leah's honor. Each event drew larger crowds, and the message was clear: they would not be silent. They were standing up against discrimination and demanding change. Leah's fiancé, Hunter, joined Travis at the front of the protests, holding a sign that read, "Justice for Leah." His heart ached for the woman he loved, and he was determined to make her voice heard. "Leah is a warrior," Hunter declared, speaking to the crowd. "She fought for her life, and now we will fight for her. We will not rest until we see justice served." The crowd cheered in response, their energy contagious. Leah watched from her hospital bed, tears of pride streaming down her cheeks. She felt their support enveloping her like a warm blanket, igniting a fire within her. One evening, as the protests continued, Travis and Hunter decided to speak with local officials about Leah's case. They knew they needed to take action and demand accountability for Officer Jude. "Let's go to the city hall," Travis suggested. "We need to make sure our voices are heard." Hunter nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "We need to show them that we won't back down." As they arrived at City Hall, they were met with a group of supporters who had gathered to demand answers. The atmosphere was charged with energy, and Travis felt a sense of purpose fill him. "We're here to speak for Leah," he shouted, drawing the attention of the crowd. "We want justice for her and for everyone who has faced discrimination." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the halls of City Hall. Inside, local officials listened to the demands of the people, feeling the weight of their words. Travis and Hunter stood at the forefront, urging the officials to take action against the police department and hold Officer Jude accountable for his actions. "This isn't just about Leah," Hunter emphasized. "This is about our entire community. We need to ensure that no one else has to suffer like she did." As the crowd continued to chant for justice, the officials exchanged uneasy glances. They knew they needed to address the community's concerns, and the pressure was mounting. Days turned into weeks, and Leah's recovery progressed. With each passing day, her strength grew, and so did her determination to fight for justice. She watched the protests from her hospital window, feeling inspired by the passion of her supporters. One afternoon, a news crew arrived to cover the protests, and Leah decided it was time to share her story. With Travis and Hunter by her side, she sat down for an interview, ready to speak out against the injustice she had faced. "I want people to know what happened to me," Leah said, her voice strong and clear. "I was shot by a police officer for no reason. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just driving to my appointment." The reporter nodded, listening intently. "What would you like to see happen next?" "I want accountability," Leah replied firmly. "I want Officer Jude to face the consequences of his actions. We can't let this happen to anyone else. We need change." As the interview aired, Leah's words resonated with people across the nation. Her bravery and determination sparked conversations about police violence and the need for reform. The protests grew larger, and Leah became a symbol of the fight against discrimination. People rallied together, sharing her story and demanding justice for all victims of police violence. At the hospital, Leah's family continued to support her, cheering her on as she regained her strength. "You're a true fighter," Travis told her, pride swelling in his chest. Leah smiled, grateful for the love and support surrounding her. "I won't stop fighting. Not now, not ever." As the pressure on local officials increased, they finally announced that Officer Jude would be suspended pending an investigation. The community erupted in cheers, knowing they had made progress, but the fight was far from over. Leah's heart raced as she realized that their voices had been heard. "This is just the beginning," she thought, determination fueling her spirit. In the weeks that followed, the community continued to push for change. They organized town hall meetings, inviting residents to share their experiences and discuss solutions for reform. Leah attended every meeting she could, sharing her story and listening to others who had faced similar injustices. Together, they brainstormed ideas for creating a safer community where everyone felt respected and valued. As the movement grew, Leah realized that they were not just fighting for her. They were fighting for a better future for everyone. "We are stronger together," she told the crowd at one meeting, her voice ringing with conviction. The community rallied around her, their voices united in the fight for justice. "We will not be silent. We will not back down," they chanted, their passion igniting a fire within Leah. As the investigation into Officer Jude continued, Leah and her supporters remained steadfast in their pursuit of justice. They knew that change was possible, and they were willing to fight for it. Leah's strength and resilience inspired those around her, and she felt grateful for the love and support that surrounded her. She was determined to continue fighting, not just for herself, but for everyone who had faced discrimination and violence. As the sun set over the city, Leah sat by the window in her hospital room, looking out at the vibrant community she loved. She knew that together, they would create a better world, a world where everyone felt safe, respected, and valued. The fight for justice was just beginning, and Leah was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With her brother, her fiancé, and her community by her side, she felt unstoppable. The weeks after Leah's shooting felt like a roller coaster for her family and friends. They had fought hard for justice, and the community was still buzzing with anger and determination. Leah had started to regain her strength, and the support from the community made her feel less alone in her battle. But the fight was far from over, and everyone knew it. One sunny afternoon, Travis and Hunter visited Leah at the hospital. The air was filled with a mix of hope and anxiety as they walked through the halls, decorated with colorful drawings made by local children supporting her recovery. They turned a corner and entered her room, where Leah sat up in bed, her hair neatly braided and a smile on her face. "Hey, you too," she said, her voice still a bit weak but filled with warmth. "Hey, superstar, how are you feeling today?" Travis asked, pulling a chair closer to her bedside. "Much better, thanks." "I'm ready to get out of here," Leah replied, determination shining in her eyes. Hunter grinned. "You're looking strong, Leah. We're so proud of you. The community has been rallying behind you." "It's amazing." Leah felt a wave of pride and gratitude wash over her. The support from everyone had been overwhelming. "I can't believe how many people care. It makes me want to fight even harder," she said, her voice growing stronger. Just then, a nurse entered the room, clipboard in hand. "Leah, how are we doing today?" she asked cheerfully. "Feeling good? Ready to be discharged?" Leah replied with a smile. The nurse nodded. "That's great to hear. Just a few more tests, and we'll see if we can get you home." Travis and Hunter exchanged excited glances. They knew how much Leah wanted to return to her normal life, especially with her baby on the way. As the nurse checked Leah's vitals, they talked about the upcoming rally they had planned for justice. "We're organizing everything for Saturday," Hunter explained. "We want to make sure everyone knows your story and what happened to you." Leah nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "I want my voice to be heard. It's not just about me. It's about everyone who has faced this kind of violence. We need to change things." The nurse smiled, finishing her checks. "I admire your spirit, Leah. You're going to inspire a lot of people." After the nurse left, Leah turned to Travis and Hunter, her expression serious. "We have to make sure they know that Officer Jude can't just walk away from this. He needs to face the consequences." Travis agreed. "We're going to make sure everyone knows what he did. This is just the beginning." As they discussed their plans, Leah felt a surge of hope. She could already picture the crowd at the rally, holding signs, chanting for justice, and standing up against discrimination. Later that week, the community continued to rally behind Leah. News outlets were covering her story, and social media buzzed with posts about the upcoming rally. The hashtag #OurJusticeForLeah was trending, and people from different neighborhoods joined in, wanting to support her fight for justice. On the day of the rally, the sun shone brightly as people gathered in the town square. Families, friends, and even strangers came together, united for a common cause. Colorful signs filled the air, reading phrases like "Stop police violence" and "Leah deserves justice." Travis, Hunter, and Leah arrived together, Leah in a wheelchair, her strength shining through as she waved at the crowd. The sight of her brought smiles and cheers, and the energy in the square was electric. "Thank you all for being here," Travis shouted into the microphone, his voice filled with passion. "We are here to stand up for Leah and demand justice for what happened to her." The crowd erupted into applause, their voices blending into a chorus of support. "Justice for Leah," they chanted, their determination echoing throughout the square. Leah looked around at the sea of faces, feeling a mixture of gratitude and responsibility. She took the microphone, her heart racing, but filled with resolve. "I'm so thankful for all of you being here. I didn't just survive a terrible act of violence. I'm here to fight for everyone who has faced injustice. This is not just my story, it's all of our stories." The crowd roared in agreement, their voices growing louder as they cheered for her courage. As the rally continued, speakers took turns sharing their stories of discrimination and police violence. Each story added to the powerful message that change was needed. Leah listened intently, her heart swelling with pride as people spoke about their experiences. She felt connected to them, understanding the pain and struggles they faced. "This is what we need," one speaker declared. "We have to come together and demand accountability. We can't let fear silence our voices." Leah's determination grew stronger as the words resonated within her. She knew they were making an impact, and they would not back down until justice was served. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the square, Leah spoke again. "We will not be silenced. We will continue to fight for justice until every person feels safe and respected in our community." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising in unison. "Justice for Leah! Justice for all!" After the rally, Leah and her family were exhausted but filled with hope. They returned home, knowing they had made a difference that day, but they also knew the fight was far from over. They needed to keep pushing for change and hold Officer Jude accountable for his actions. As they settled into their evening routine, the reality of their situation weighed heavily on them. They were determined to keep the momentum going and ensure that Leah's story would not be forgotten. They spent the night brainstorming ideas on how to continue the fight. Travis suggested reaching out to local organizations that focused on police reform, while Hunter thought about starting a petition to gather more support. Leah felt a spark of excitement as they talked. "We need to reach as many people as possible," she said, her eyes shining with determination. "Let's show them that we won't back down until there's justice." With each passing day, their resolve grew stronger. They knew the road ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face it together. The community's support had given them strength, and they would continue to fight for what was right. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure on the police department mounted. The community rallied around Leah, creating a powerful movement that demanded change. The news reported on the protests and the calls for accountability, shining a spotlight on the issue of police violence. As Leah's health improved, she felt more determined than ever. She knew she had a responsibility to speak out for others who couldn't. Then, one afternoon, as Leah was resting at home, Travis received an urgent call. "You need to come to the police station. They're making an announcement about Officer Jude." The news sent a jolt of energy through Leah. This was the moment they had been waiting for. She and Hunter hurriedly got ready, anticipation coursing through them as they rushed to the station. When they arrived, a crowd had gathered outside, reporters and cameras poised to capture what was about to happen. Leah's heart raced as she joined the crowd, feeling the energy of everyone around her. As the police chief stepped up to the podium, the crowd fell silent. "We are here today to address the recent events surrounding the shooting of Leah Williams," he began. "After a thorough investigation, we have made the decision to suspend Officer Jude without pay pending further review." Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Leah felt a mix of relief and anger. "Is that it?" she whispered to Hunter. "What about real accountability?" The chief continued, "We will also implement new training programs to ensure our officers handle situations with sensitivity and respect." The crowd erupted into shouts of anger and frustration. "That's not enough!" someone yelled. "He needs to be held accountable." Leah stepped forward, raising her voice. "This is not just about training. It's about justice. Officer Jude shot me without reason, and he needs to face the consequences." The crowd cheered, rallying behind her words. "Justice for Leah," they shouted, their voices echoing through the air. As the chief tried to regain control, Leah felt a surge of determination. This was their moment to push for real change, and she was ready to fight for it. "I will not stop until we see justice served," she declared, her voice strong and unwavering. "We will continue to stand up against police violence and discrimination until every single person feels safe in their community." The crowd erupted in applause, their support bolstering her resolve. Leah knew they would not back down until real change was achieved. Together, they would continue to fight for justice, ensuring that Leah's story would be heard loud and clear. As the sun set over the crowd, Leah felt a renewed sense of hope. She was surrounded by people who cared, ready to stand together against injustice. And they would not stop until every voice was heard. The air was thick with tension as Leah, Travis, and Hunter stood in front of the crowd at the press conference. Cameras flashed and reporters whispered among themselves, eager to catch every word of the monumental event. This was their moment, the moment to share their story and demand justice for the horrific incident that had changed their lives forever. Leah felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She had fought hard to recover, and now, standing before her community, she knew it was time to be brave. "This is it," she whispered to Travis, who squeezed her hand reassuringly. "You've got this," he replied, a proud smile on his face. As the mayor approached the podium, the chatter faded into silence. The sun glinted off the microphone, and all eyes were on him. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady. "We are gathered to address the tragic shooting of Leah Williams, a pregnant mother who was shot by Officer Jude while simply driving home. This incident has shaken our community to its core." Leah took a deep breath, her heart racing. She could see her mother in the crowd, tears of pride in her eyes. "Today," the mayor continued, "we want to assure you that justice will be served." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices a powerful wave of support. "Justice for Leah," they chanted, their passion echoing through the air. Leah felt her spirit lift as she absorbed the energy of the moment. This was what they had all fought for, the chance to make a difference. As the mayor stepped aside, Leah knew it was her time to speak. She took a step forward, the microphone trembling slightly in her hands. "Thank you for being here," she said, her voice strong yet vulnerable. "I'm here to tell my story, not just for me, but for everyone who has faced discrimination and violence because of the color of their skin." The crowd fell silent, hanging onto her every word. Leah felt a surge of courage wash over her. "I was simply driving to my doctor's appointment when I was stopped by Officer Jude. He treated me like I was a criminal, and without reason, he shot me. I want everyone to know that I didn't deserve this. No one deserves this." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Leah could see the anger in their eyes. "This isn't just about me," she continued, her heart racing. "This is about all the mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters who have been harmed by police brutality. We need to stand together to make sure this never happens again." The applause that followed was thunderous, and Leah felt tears prick at her eyes. This was the support she had longed for. "I'm fighting for my baby, and I'm fighting for all of us," she said, her voice filled with determination. "We need to hold those in power accountable. Officer Jude needs to face the consequences of his actions." As Leah stepped back from the microphone, Travis felt a swell of pride. "You did it, sis," he exclaimed, embracing her. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing her sentiments. With the press conference drawing to a close, the mayor addressed the crowd again. "We will investigate this incident thoroughly. Officer Jude will face criminal charges, and we will work to improve the policies surrounding police conduct in our community. This is just the beginning of our fight for justice." Leah glanced at Hunter, who stood with a look of admiration on his face. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "We're making a difference." "Yeah, we are," Leah replied, a smile breaking through her earlier anxiety. And it's all thanks to everyone who stood by us." As people began to disperse, Leah, Travis, and Hunter felt a renewed sense of hope. The road ahead would be long, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. In the days that followed, the community rallied around Leah, creating a support network that offered assistance and advocacy. Fundraisers were organized to help with her medical expenses, and the local community center hosted events to raise awareness about police brutality and discrimination. One evening, as Leah sat in her living room, she received a call from a local news station. "We'd like to do a follow-up interview with you," the reporter said. "Your story has inspired so many, and we want to share your voice with a wider audience." Leah felt a rush of excitement and apprehension. "I'd love to," she replied, her heart racing. "But I want to make sure we focus on the need for change and accountability." "That's exactly what we're aiming for," the reporter assured her. "Your bravery has sparked a movement, and we want to amplify it." As Leah prepared for the interview, she reflected on everything that had happened. She remembered the fear she had felt during the shooting, the uncertainty surrounding her recovery, and the overwhelming support from her community. Each experience fueled her determination to make a difference. On the day of the interview, Leah sat in front of the camera, her heart pounding. The reporter smiled encouragingly. "Thank you for joining us, Leah. Can you tell us about your journey since the incident?" Leah took a deep breath, her voice steady. "It's been a long road. After I was shot, I was terrified. I thought I might lose my baby, and I felt helpless. But with the support of my family and this community, I found my strength. I realized I had to speak up, not just for myself, but for everyone who has faced this injustice." The reporter nodded, captivated by her story. "What message do you want to share with others who might be going through similar experiences?" "I want them to know they're not alone," Leah replied, her eyes shining with determination. "We need to support each other and stand together against injustice. We have the power to create change, but it starts with us sharing our stories and demanding accountability." As the interview concluded, Leah felt a sense of relief wash over her. She was proud of the progress they had made, and she knew this was only the beginning. The support from her community gave her hope, and she was determined to continue fighting for justice. Weeks turned into months, and the investigation into Officer Jude continued. The community remained vigilant, organizing protests and vigils to keep the momentum going. Leah, Travis, and Hunter participated in every event, their voices growing louder and more impactful. One day, as they gathered for a rally outside the police department, Leah tipped the stage once more. "We are here today to demand accountability," she declared, her voice ringing through the crowd. "Officer Jude shot me, but he will not silence us. We will fight for justice, and we will not back down." The crowd erupted in cheers, their unity palpable. "Justice for Leah. Justice for all," they chanted, their voices echoing through the streets. As the rally continued, Leah felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. She knew they were making a difference, and the support from her community filled her with hope. Together, they would create a better future for themselves and for generations to come. Finally, the day arrived when the district attorney announced the charges against Officer Jude. He would face trial for his actions, and the community held its breath, waiting for justice to be served. In the courtroom, Leah sat with Travis and Hunter, her heart pounding as they awaited the verdict. The atmosphere was tense, and the weight of anticipation hung in the air. When the verdict was announced, Leah felt tears of relief stream down her face. Officer Jude was found guilty of excessive use of force, and he would face time in prison. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices a powerful testament to their collective strength. Leah stood tall, her heart swelling with pride. "We did it," she shouted, embracing her brother and fiancé. "This is for all of us." The community had come together to create change, and Leah knew that their fight was far from over. But in that moment, she felt a sense of hope and triumph, knowing that together, they had made a difference. As they celebrated outside the courthouse, Leah realized that their story was just one of many. They had sparked a movement, and their voices would continue to be heard. Together, they would fight for justice, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had faced discrimination and violence. In the days to come, Leah became an advocate for change, sharing her story to inspire others and encourage them to stand up for their rights. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to face it with strength and determination. Leah had found her voice, and she would not be silenced. With her family and community by her side, she would continue to fight for justice, one step at a time.